A judge demanded a veteran remove his medal, but the public's reaction cost him everything. Before we dive into this story, let us know in the comment, where are you watching from? So let's dive in. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to remove that medal in my courtroom. The voice echoed cold and sharp through the marble-paneled courtroom of the Cook County Circuit Court in downtown Chicago. Judge Robert L. Thompson, known for his no-nonsense approach, sat high on the bench, robe pristine, gavel still echoing off the walls. Standing before him was James Callahan, Jim to anyone who'd shared a foxhole or a coffee with him. 74 years old, retired steelworker, Bronze Star recipient, and one of the last men alive from his Vietnam unit. He was not the accused, nor the lawyer, nor a party to the case. He had simply shown up to speak in defense of his neighbor, an immigrant single mother being evicted by a property developer trying to cash in on gentrification. But before he could speak, before he even opened his statement, the judge's focus locked onto the small, polished bronze star pinned proudly to his lapel. "I'm sorry," Jim asked, not out of defiance but disbelief. He had worn that medal to his brother's funeral, to Memorial Day parades, to meet mayors and congressmen. Never once had anyone told him to remove it. Until now. "You heard me, Mr. Callahan," the judge repeated, his voice clipped, devoid of empathy. "That medal constitutes a personal display. It is not permitted in this courtroom. This is not a parade ground." The room went still. The woman Jim had come to support looked at him, horrified. A quiet buzz filled the gallery, reporters, veterans, and members of the public watching the moment unfold like something out of a bad dream. With the kind of calm you only earn after crawling under gunfire, Jim reached up, unclipped the medal, and placed it on the table beside him. "I wore it not for show, Your Honor, but because I've earned the right to remember the men who never made it home," he said, voice steady but full of weight. "Men whose names aren't even on gravestones, only on walls." The judge didn't respond. "Proceed," he said coldly. Jim gave his statement. He told the court how Maria Gomez had cooked for him when he had pneumonia last winter, how her son shoveled his driveway while his knees barely held together, how when the power went out during the January freeze, she brought him hot soup and candles. "If you want to talk about character," he said, eyes scanning the room, "you're looking at it." The judge gave no visible response. The case proceeded, but something about the room had changed. As Jim stepped down from the witness stand and quietly picked up his medal, a reporter from the Chicago Tribune leaned in and snapped a photo. Within the hour, that photo was online. By sunset, it had gone viral. The headline was simple: "Judge orders veteran to remove medal during testimony." In less than 24 hours, hashtags exploded. "Honor our veterans," Josh Bronze Star writes, "Shashed on judge disrespect." Veterans from all 50 states uploaded selfies with their medals. Memorial organizations released statements. Gold Star families spoke on national news. "That man didn't walk into court to make a scene," one Vietnam vet tweeted. "He walked in to stand up for someone, and got disrespected by a man in a robe who's probably never seen a battlefield." By the second day, dozens of veterans, some in wheelchairs, some in full-dress blues, assembled outside the courthouse in silent protest. They didn't chant, they didn't yell. They stood in rows, shoulder to shoulder, medals gleaming in the sunlight. The local VFW chapter in Illinois called it a stain on judicial decorum. A retired colonel wrote an op-ed for the Chicago Sun-Times saying, "The only thing Mr. Callahan should have been asked to remove is the judge himself." Under growing pressure, Judge Thompson released a written statement calling the incident an unfortunate misunderstanding of courtroom decorum. But it was too late. The Illinois Judicial Inquiry Board launched a formal review of his conduct. His past rulings and courtroom behavior resurfaced. Dismissals made without explanation, stern orders against civilian expressions like religious necklaces or service pins. Patterns were forming, and they weren't flattering. Meanwhile, Jim was overwhelmed. "I didn't mean for this to become a war," he told a local CBS reporter. "I just wanted to speak for someone who never had a voice in rooms like that." When asked if he felt the judge should be removed, he shook his head. "I'm not interested in revenge. I just want people like Maria to be heard." and maybe for a few folks to remember who medals like this belong to: the living and the lost. Within 2 weeks, Judge Thompson officially resigned. He cited personal reasons, but the public knew better. The courthouse where he once presided now bore silent murals from protesters, paper stars and handwritten notes from veterans and civilians alike. For Jim, for dignity, for all who served. The woman Jim defended won her case. The eviction was dismissed. A GoFundMe, started anonymously by a local Marine, raised enough to pay off her legal fees and cover her rent for a year. And Jim, he now speaks once a month at local high schools and veterans centers about service, silence, and standing up when no one else will. He still wears his bronze star. But now, wherever he walks, be it a classroom, a city hall, or a courthouse, it's not just pinned to his lapel. It's carried in the hearts of thousands who are reminded what true honor looks like. Because in that courtroom, a man in a robe tried to silence a soldier. But the people, they stood louder than any gavel could. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button and drop a karma in the comments below.